For nearly a decade, they sought justice, and on Sunday, it was finally delivered. Families of those who died on 9/11 got the news that Osama Bin Laden, the terrorist leader who planned the attacks, had been killed. Chris Santora was a New York City firefighter, one of more than 400 emergency workers killed at the World Trade Center. This morning, we are joined by his parents, Al and Maureen Santora. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Maureen, I want to start with you. What was your initial reaction when you got word that Osama Bin Laden was killed?
Well, I didn't believe it. I was expecting somebody to come on the TV and say, oh, we made a mistake. It really wasn't him. And so I just sat and watched the TV for a couple of hours. Yes. And then when the president actually got on and said he was, captured and killed, I said, well, finally we've gotten the beginning of justice.
Al, what about you? Where were you and how did it sink in for you?
Well, I was watching TV, she was on a computer, and when it first came on, it scrolled across the screen while I was watching the show, and it said, emergency bulletin or something to that effect, and so I thought, something happened, Sunday night, it said the president's going to make a statement, and then in about 5 minutes it flashed that Osama Bin Laden had been killed. So I yelled at her, come out, come out, come out. So we sat there and it was just, like a state of shock, because there was no pre-warning. I mean, it just came on all of a sudden. And then they kept saying that the news media was giving a 2-minute warning, before the president comes in, and they kept pushing it back, pushing it back. It was 10:30, then it was 11 o'clock.
But when you heard, what'd you think?
11:20, I said, wow, what's going on here? Is it really going to happen? And then he came out, and we were kind of blown away. I mean, it was kind of a mixed feeling, feeling that this guy's been found, this guy who perpetrated this whole thing, and killed all these innocent people, almost 3,000 people on that day, and he was finally caught.
And your son was one of those that was killed on that day. Help us understand his story. Tell us about Chris, or Christopher as you call him.
Yes. I always call him Christopher. Christopher was 23, and his lifelong dream was to become a firefighter. He graduated from college with a history degree. He was an American history buff and knew more history than anybody I've ever met. But he did substitute teaching in the New York City public schools before he became a firefighter, and was offered a permanent position and refused it because his dream was to be a firefighter, and he had scored a perfect score on the written and the physical. And so he knew he was going to be in the first class of the new test. And in January of 2001, he received a letter that in February he was going to be inducted into the fire department. And for Christopher, that was the best time of his life.
He was living his dream.
He was living his dream, and he graduated in June. He was assigned to Engine 54 out of 4 Battalion 9 in mid-Manhattan on 48th Street and 8th Avenue. And Christopher was just beside himself with excitement. He loved being in the firehouse, and he had fulfilled his dream at 23, which was wonderful. And
so young to have lost his life in such a tragedy. I want you both to take a listen to what the president had to say, and I want to get your reaction after you listen to it. So take a listen.
Finally, let me say to the families who lost loved ones on 9/11 that we have never forgotten your loss, nor wavered in our commitment to see that we do whatever it takes to prevent another attack on our shores.
Al, you heard the president say, we have never forgotten your loss. Were there moments, though, when you felt like the leaders in Washington had forgotten, because it had been almost 10 years?
Without a doubt. A lot of times we thought that you didn't hear things for months at a time, that they had forgotten. And if there really was an ongoing effort, that it was low priority. All the other things that, while Bush was still in office, it seemed like they were moving forward to catch him, and then when the Obama administration took over, it seemed like there were so many other problems going on in the country with the finances and the unemployment and everything else, that it became a low priority. And I never lost hope that he would be caught, but it didn't seem to be going to happen as quickly as we had hoped for.
So, Maureen, does this in any way bring some closure for you?
Well, I never use the word closure, because for us, we'll never get Christopher back. There'll never be closure for us. We're different people. We had to adjust to the fact that we would never see our son again.
Your only son.
And our only son. So for me, I'll never have closure. I miss him every day. I think about him every day. I know he's around. And today, he was around me all day long. He was thrilled beyond words that this happened. He was just I just felt his presence, that said, good job, you know, soldiers did the right thing and they killed this horrible human being. But I feel that this is one of many chapters that must occur for our world to really change. This was a person that perpetuated hatred, and he had mothers have their sons and daughters strap up and be suicide bombers. He was filled with hatred. He did terrible, terrible things to the human race. I'm delighted that he's not around. I'm delighted that he wasn't captured and brought to trial. I'm delighted that he's now off the face of the earth. And, you know,
So you're glad that
finished.
he wasn't captured alive?
Absolutely.
Do you feel the same way, Al?
Yes, I do, because I think that it would have been another showcase for, you know, some people, you know, to drag this out and are we doing the right thing? Are we giving him his proper, you know, justice and so on? And you know, in this day and age, we have to be so politically correct that we can't do anything the way it should be done. So I'm just as happy that they took care of it the way they did, and I'm sure they got all the evidence they need to make sure that it was him and that there was no question about it. But I wouldn't want to have to see him be brought back to American soil, and then the circus begins, you know. And I'm happy. I'm happy.
Well,
with
Al and Maureen, we do appreciate your time and in memory of your son coming on to talk to us about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And a website and scholarship have been established in their son's name. You can find it at ChristopherSantora.com.